where we fall short is the way we are not honoring neurodivergent people's differences.
Ooh.
Right? The way we want to put them in boxes because it's easier. And by doing that, they're growing up thinking they should fit into this box as described by so-called professionals.
Episode 44, Careers Are Autistic. Welcome to the Autistic Culture Podcast. Each episode, we dive deep into autistic contributions to society and culture by introducing you to some of the world's most famous and successful autistics in history.
Before we get started, a quick disclaimer on how we use the word autistic. The purpose of this show is not to diagnose the people or characters we discuss as autistic. While some may have announced being autistic, what we're really sharing here is our observation of what is representative of autistic culture. It can sometimes be difficult for autistic people to celebrate our natural tendencies and traits due to the perception of autism as a disorder that needs to be fixed, a long history of damaging medical interventions to get autistics to fit in with mainstream culture, and protective masking skills many of us have developed to try to stay safe.
Whether you are autistic or just love someone who is, your hosts, Dr. Angela Loria, the linguistic autistic,
and licensed psychological practitioner Matt Lowry, welcome you to take this time to be fully immersed in the language, values, traditions, norms, and identity of Autistica.
Hey, Angela. Hey, Maisie.
Hey, Matt.
Hello.
We have a guest today.
We do. One of my friends, Maisie Soetantyo. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Close. It's actually Soetantyo.
Soetantyo. I apologize.
Yeah, that's okay.
I've never
You're very
addressed you by your last name before. It's one of those things where I see your name all the time, but yeah.
Maisie's kind of like
Soetantyo?
Madonna. She's just like a one-name girl. Maisie.
Yes.
Just
So we've known each other for some time, and we've done a few projects together. But I would like our dear friend, the listener, and Angela, to know more about you. So
Tell me more about you, Maisie.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Here I go. So my name is Maisie Soetantyo. I am an openly autistic, late diagnosed self-advocate. I am very passionate about advocating for autistic kids. That's actually my training was at UCLA at Young Autism Project as a behavioral intervention. That's how I found autistic kids. And I just really enjoy working with kids. And I left behind ABA after doing it for 10 plus years because I felt like something was not right and I couldn't put my finger on it, so I left it behind, and all my clients stayed with me when I got trained and certified in a relationship-based approach. So after that, basically at the clinic, I only work with parents to figure out how to support neurodivergent kiddos. And I watch my clients grow up, and some of them managed to finish college and still not able to get a summer job at Domino's, for example, even though he makes and eats pizza every day because he's a very specific eater, right?
This is the way.
I was going to say, that's probably some good pizza. I'm just saying.
Oh, it's good pizza because that's what he makes when we're together. But that's why in 2019, I created a nonprofit, Autism Career Pathways. And it's mostly, we do our online events. I love connecting autistic adults with families raising autistic children. I love bringing the community together, educating the community at large. I mean, people who are not touched by neurodivergence, because, to me, meaningful employment looks very different for everyone, and people keep wanting to put autistic and neurodivergent people in boxes and tell us what to do. And so my mission has always been about educating whoever wants to listen to me in the moment, how to shift that mindset when you are in the presence of an autistic person, because otherwise you're missing out and the world is missing out.
And that's the thing, because before you knew that you were autistic,
right?
Who was your old boss?
Oh yeah, so I started at UCLA, and then I didn't want to do research, so I worked with Center for Autism and the Related Disorders, which was the biggest autistic behavioral agency. An agency who provides ABA, like from all globally. So they're huge. And I worked my way up to become a clinic supervisor. That's why I moved from LA to the Bay Area to open a clinic for my boss. So, that's just, I just want to show people that when you are raising a human being or you're trying to support a human being, you have to be human first.
Yeah, because you were
Maisie.
Because correct me if I'm wrong. You were trained under Ivar Lovaas.
I was under him. And that gave me the foundation. So I learned with the clinic as well as through the agency.
Wait, so I have a million questions, but I have to know, like, did you lose friends in this transition period? Like, did you bring people with you, or did you lose people, or a little bit of both?
Eventually, many of the clients that I work with through ABA, eventually, many of them came back to me when I left this program, because they felt like there were a few things that they were wondering, and they came to me later on. And at that point, those clients were like 12, 14, right? I worked with them young, when they were little. They were saying, the parents were saying, we just don't know how to figure out all these things about executive functioning skills and social skills. For example, at school, some of my clients were able to, academically, they were able to learn, right? Whether with minimal support or completely independently, to the point that if a professional observed the classroom, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And now I know that's called masking. To the top level masking. Like,
you won.
Yeah.
Right.
Because again, at the time, you did not know that you yourself was autistic.
Yes, correct.
But
I did spend a lot of time in the car, a lot of nights with my head down, like crying, and didn't know exactly why. So that happens to my clients too, who were supposed to be success stories through a behavioral program, right? And the parents later on said, well, they can speak, but basically when they came home from school, they just need like a complete, like, go down into a hole and don't come out until the next day. That's why the parents were very concerned, and they didn't know, like, is there anything else out there that can fix this problem? Lack of desire to connect with people, and also mindful decision makings, and everybody likes to use the word executive functioning, lack of executive functioning skills. Like, why do we have to keep telling them to do certain things, and they seem to not remember they've done it before?
Yeah.
All these questions.
My husband's been asking that question for 10 years.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, I guess I'll keep reminding you to eat. I'm like, that's great.
Exactly.
Right. Just do it every day.
That's one of the things we talked about in the productivity episode, that we don't form habits like neurotypicals do, because that's not how we're wired. Everything we do has to be a conscious decision, and therefore it's exhausting. And we were talking earlier about how last night I crashed for like 14 hours, and that's not a choice. That's my meat body saying, yeah, we're out of order for a while. We need to restore our energy. Your battery is beyond drain.
Right. Correct. And I think a lot of my former clients, some of them I'm still in touch. It's incredible that they're all in their 30s and we still text each other. And, you know, so I also know what goes on, you know, behind closed doors when you're autistic and you received a very deficit type of program, and then suddenly you become a young adult, and that what happens when you go through life with trauma, like every day you're people telling you need to change the way you do things, you need to do it this way. Of course eventually you get tired, you just wait for people to tell you, because whatever you do on your own, or whatever decision you make, it's not honored, or it's not good enough. And that sticks. Right. And so I have clients who are still going through therapy today, in his mid-30s, trying to learn about himself and what it means to be autistic. And of course, it breaks my heart, because when he was 3.5 years, I was in that room with him. But then again, I was thinking back, so why are they still in my life at this point? Was I doing something different as an autistic therapist back then? And we have conversations. I have conversations with my former clients who are now adults. And I was told that, well, you know, I mean, you were very different, because like you would just sit on the floor and play trains, and you would do a lot of babysitting, you know. So I just couldn't follow formulas, because when you're doing a very specific programming, you know, my brain just doesn't compute that. Like data taking, for example.
Yeah.
It was very hard, because I have number dyslexia. I have dyscalculia. So to be required to take data of like how many times, like correct trials, I did my best, but I mean, I struggled. So I also was placed to work with many non-speaking clients who were dyspraxic, because I was just intuitively very good. I refused to accept that this little person can't do or say certain things. It means we have to change the way we teach this young person. So I was given the most challenging cases, because I was very patient. I would like find a workaround. And that's why I know that spelling to communicate is a real thing, because I did that with some of my most difficult, challenging behaviorally, and kids who were apraxic. I taught them to use sight words, so I was definitely not conventional, you know. That was my story. So that's why these people are still in my life today.
Because you connected with them on an autistic level, instead of trying to force them to be neurotypical.
Right.
We love sharing stories of autistic culture. And if you are seeing yourself in any of these stories, and you're wondering if maybe you're one of us, or maybe you're already diagnosed or self-diagnosed, and you want to know if Matt can help you live your life better and be more authentically autistic, check out his website at mattlowrylpp.com. That's Matt, M-A-T-T, Lowry, L-O-W-R-Y. And then that LPP, it stands for Licensed Psychological Practitioner. So head on over to mattlowrylpp.com and learn more about working with my buddy Matt.
So let's talk about some career stuff. I want to hear, we did an episode about Temple Grandin, and one of the things that came up, she has a lot of opinions on autistic careers and how hard autistic people should work to get a job. Get a job.
Mowing lawns.
Get a job. Mow the lawn. We have many feelings about Temple. You could hear on that episode, but I want to hear your perspective now going with these kids from being little to now being working age. Yeah. What's your perspective on how do autistic people find careers that are sustainable economically as well as socio-emotionally?
So this is a big topic. So if I don't actually answer your question, please feel free to redirect me, because this is, Matt knows this. One of those questions that get me so pissed, and I just go like, woo, 12 different rabbit holes.
We like to demonstrate mazing, so we demonstrate different aspects of the autistic language as part of our culture.
Right.
And so mazing is welcome, but we will also keep you on track.
Okay, where do we fall short when it comes to preparing autistic kids to grow up and become the best that they can be, right? Where do we fall short? Is it the parents' fault? If you want to blame someone, are these parents' fault? Are these the professionals' fault? Or is it the autistic people's fault, right? So, you can put the blame game all you want, but I think where we fall short is the way we are not honoring neurodivergent people's differences.
Ooh.
Right? The way we want to put them in boxes because it's easier. And by doing that, they're growing up thinking they should fit into this box as described by so-called professionals, educators, and my parents. Right? Parents, they're trying to do the best that they can. But the information given to families, I think, prevent the family to figure out how to function together as one unit. The autistic person lives with other, probably neurodivergent people also. So I think professionals who are hired to support one autistic person within the family unit is also not thinking about the big picture. Everything is about putting out fire in the moment, because of course parents come to a therapist saying, how can I make my child sleep better at night, for example, because we're all exhausted. Well, not being able to sleep, it's probably because you're feeling very anxious going through the day, and you still replaying it in your head, like, what did I do things correctly? That anxiety that little people can't just shut off. Right.
Absolutely.
And then also typically, especially parents of newly diagnosed neurodivergent kids, they don't just have one professional. They're told, in order to be a good parent to a neurodivergent young person, you have to hire this team of professionals to listen to them. So the moment parents receive a diagnosis for their child, they lose sense of their intuitiveness to parent, where that actually, I have goosebumps saying this, that's actually, one of the most foundational thing, because we're raising a human being. Maybe you have a different child who is very cranky and colicky. You don't know, but at the end of the day, that professional who you pay to tell you what to do, that professional is not living with you, right? So specific to autism, we say autism is a dynamic disability where not just every day is different, moment to moment is different, right? So who else will support the young person to figure it out but parents? Because as parents, we love our kids like forever. They're ours forever, right? And yet parents are being given so many conflicting recommendations. Parents have people coming in and out of their home. It's chaos. They are, to raise an autistic child is also already very chaotic. And then you bring in people scheduled to come to your house, doing whatever they're trained to do, right? And your child has milestones created for neurotypical kids that it doesn't matter how hard you can mask or how smart you are, how capable you are to mimic neurotypical behavior.
Let's pair that to careers. What happens then in how do we find healthy careers? What does that mean?
Well, I think an ideal career for neurodivergent people are the ones that really honor your identity as a neurodivergent person, right? And that process starts from your parents, like how your parents help you and support you. So this is where I can say through my own experiences as an autistic person, my mom was very different because my mom had a minimally speaking little sister with Down syndrome. So in our family, to watch radical acceptance in a true sense, I watched that, right? Because my auntie is the queen. She is still the queen. Whatever she wants, it goes, So I think the recipe, that process of nurturing your identity, nurturing your special interests, starts from very early on. And that's the foundation, like for someone like me to know, okay, well, I don't understand a lot of things when people talk about it, but my mom taught me, if you don't understand, you just keep asking until you find the answer or find someone who can teach you the way that you're learning it.
Yes.
That's what my mom told me.
And this goes into, as you well know, the title of our podcast is the Autistic Culture Podcast, because we see autism as a culture. But one of the things that we are working on is a multicultural definition of autism, because autism is present across cultures. And this is one of your particular interests of identifying autistic culture, especially in Asian and Pan-Asian communities, correct?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So tell us about all this kind of stuff, because I love trying to figure out what the core autistic culture is when it's expressed so differently, and there's so many different expectations across all of these different areas. So what all have you experienced? And tell us about your research, your personal life, all of this stuff, because I personally find it fascinating.
Well, autistic passion or special interest, some people call that special interest. I'm not the only one autistic in my family. So when I was little, I used to help my dad, who was very fascinated with stamp collecting. Like he would take me to these places, and he would bring home boxes of these old stamps. And I would sit on the floor with a magnifying glass, and I would have these thick books where, dictionary, stamp dictionary. Did you even know? I'm sure that's not what it's called, but basically my job was to find what if these stems have any values at all, because in these books that you can find, like, some stems are very expensive if they're a misprint, for example, right? So
Yeah.
limited edition. So my dad tried to bring me into it. My brother wouldn't have anything to do with it, but my brother's thing is cars. And that's a whole different story. But so and then my dad also introduced me to to sports watching. So I was terrible at doing sports because I was very poorly coordinated, and my parents told me, okay, it's okay if you can't ride a bike, because I tried so hard, but my knees are all battered. Like, every day I would fall off the bike. So they told me, stop. It's okay not to be able to ride a bike. But then my dad introduced me to sports watching. So I grew up watching Muhammad Ali, Williams' sister, tennis, and it actually, I'm only interested in math when it comes to sports statistics today.
Nice. Okay.
I was listening to sports radio just while I was waiting for you to get ready for this interview, but these autistic passions, if little kids have that, whether it's sensory driven or collecting collecting things like my dad, I think they are a serious thing that needs to be nurtured, because it serves a function for that person, and also it helps you to connect with each other within that family unit. And that's also how you find your own community later, right?
This is the way.
That's the way. So it really bothers me so much when autistic play is always changed by therapists who think that that's not appropriate place, like lining cars, or always having 2 cards in your hand, and then you don't want to write in school because you would rather hold your metal cards. My brother was like that. He runs a very successful it's not just auto details, it's expensive car detailing. That's what he does. He takes his family, travel to Germany, to Europe every year to look at new cars.
Wait, I have to tell this story. So I know that Twitter, now X, is sort of a toxic place.
Right.
But there's this guy that I follow on there who thinks he's neurotypical. He's not. Newsflash. And the autistic community needed to share that with him this week. So, okay, Matt, this is not the guy for you to follow, but I promise you he's amazing. He does men's fashion. And I'm I'm not into men's fashion. But he does these commentaries on men's suits that are just incredible. They're so detailed. I didn't know.
What is this guy's name? Because I've been getting weird YouTube recommendations for that kind of stuff.
I
think the algorithm has recognized it.
It's like Guy or something. Anyway, his stuff is so good. I follow it. I share it with my son. I'll find you his name in a second. We'll put it in the show notes.
Right.
But so somebody called him. There was an autistic person who was commenting on this robust commentary on somebody's suit. And they said, wow, you're a fashion autist. And so then he commented back, I think you mean artist or something. And they're like, no, you're autistic. So then he goes on this ableist rant, and he's like, how stupid are these autistic people calling themselves autists? This is so dumb. Who would want to go to a medical autist instead of a doctor? Or who would want to go to a car autist instead of a mechanic? And 9,000 autistic people are like me. I would only want to go, my car detailer is absolutely autistic, and the guy who changes my tires, and my doctor is for sure autistic. And then everyone started coming up with these names. So an auto autist, an autist, and a lawyer autist, a lautist.
I like that.
So there is the best thread on Twitter. I'm going to share with you guys about
fun.
Every possible name. And yes, that is, if it is your special interest, there is no one we want more than you. And this guy 100% is autistic. Yeah. That is why he is so good at fashion. He sees details I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because that's the thing with our special interests. Who's gonna do better? I tell the story a lot about the guys who put in my heater, clearly autistic, relatives of autistic people that I know. It came in, worked for 45 minutes. The cloud with the saws and the hammers, cartoon style, everything at a right angle, everything perfectly done, and I save $100 on my heating bill every month because that's all they do.
Yeah,
right. And who would do it better? Who would care more to do it better? And so this guy tried to shame us, and we're all like, no, not having it. Nice try, my friend. Nice try.
Well, so if you ask me, what is your advice for parents of autistic kids so that you can support this person and to have a good career in the future, right? So that's a good question.
Yes.
I would say instead of trying to change the way your autistic child play, right? Introduce also into your autistic child's life what you're interested in, because more likely than not, you're also a neurodivergent yourself.
Fancy that.
Don't lose your sense as an interesting human being, a curious human being when you have an autistic child. In fact, you should bring your interests into your child's life the way my dad did it, taking me to stamp auctions on a weekend and making me, but because that's his love language and he's inviting me into it.
He's sharing his culture with you.
Yes. And I became part of his ritual, and I didn't mind it because I also learned hey, I'm actually really good at finding a little crooked or unfinished line on a little piece of stamp. It became our thing, plus the sports watching.
That's wonderful.
So I think in order to parent a human being, autistic or not, you have to be the most authentic person. So instead of changing yourselves to be this other ideal parent defined by people you pay,
right?
Or whoever funds the program. No, because even with neurotypical babies, they take a lot of time, hours and hours every day to learn. Autistic people need to be afforded the same thing. Right? You don't just change overnight.
Yeah, and this is the thing about this, this mythical ideal that people are selling you. Because, like you said, for instance, people, ableists often say, back in my day, there wasn't such no thing as no autism.
Right.
When stamp collecting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we didn't have Minecraft back in the day, but we certainly had other outlets. And this is the thing about it going back to the beginning of time. We have had this autistic culture that is ingrained in our DNA, that we have certain ways that we do things. And when we teach our children our ways, because like you said, if you pay a whole bunch of professionals who say, do this, do this, do this, do this, it's going to stress out the parent and the kid, causing a terrible relationship between the parent and the kid, which exacerbates all the other problems.
Right. And I think when you pay professionals, at the end of the day, you still have to figure out how to implement the recommendations.
Yeah.
And I think if you work with professionals who are not affirming, it's almost like you're given a manual in a foreign language.
Yeah.
You don't know how, I have so many books because I'm a parent to neurodivergent people, but it's not that simple. Right? You have to follow your gut feeling in the moment and you do the best that you can, and it will be okay. You know, it's not going to be perfect, but
there's so much fear. I mean, even going back to like when I was in labor, before I even had my baby, there were doctors and nurses like screaming in my face, like
really?
saying like, if you don't get the epidural, you're gonna kill the baby, like the baby's gonna die, like like. And so when you get this diagnosis, you have a 2-year-old, you get this diagnosis, and they're like, early intervention is key, and you must do this. It feels like I don't have like. What I remember that pressure of when I was in labor, here's the right way to labor, here's the right way to have a baby, or my baby's going to die. And now you have a 2-year-old and they're like, if they don't get speech language pathology right now, 6 hours a day, they'll never have a job. They're never going to. That is terrifying, because if you miss the window, and they lean into that, right? If you miss the window, then my kid is never going to get a job, and it's going to be my fault. Because I didn't do it when I could have done it. So it's hard. I mean, like, it sounds very nice to be like, oh, trust yourself, be authentic. But you're like, at my child's expense. I think it's like how people get into religion. They're like, well, I'll just pray just in case if there is a hell. That way I won't go there. It's like, well, just in case, I'll send them to 6 hours of ABA.
Yeah. Well, a lot of brainwashing.
That's a lot of brainwashing.
A lot of brainwashing for parents, and it makes the future look so hopeless, and you actually ignore your gut feeling. I mean, really. So here's how my autistic brain also works, right? I'm very curious, and I want to find the answer, and I know every person needs different answers. And if I wouldn't give up. And how I learned that. So I created this program when I was doing the relationship program. I invited families to stay, not with me at my house, but families come from all over the world, and I stay with them for 5 days, from either 9 to 3 or 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. because I want to see with my own eyes like how this dynamic works, like
data collection.
Yes, but it's in the autistic way, because I learned so much that if I work with a client who has self-injurious behavior or aggressive behavior, and I prescribe something, do this, don't do that, I felt like that's not correct. It's not right. Without me being able to see how things unfold right in front of my eyes, I learned so much, right? Just helping parents to trust themselves as a person who's caring and loving and slowing down, and just teaching them to go back to the basic as a human being. That was the most helpful thing. Like from Monday to Friday, we saw so much differences because I was just undoing things throughout the week. And we worked together to to look for opportunities that suits the parent and the autistic child. And they even, for people who have pets at home, they came with their dog.
Of course.
We stayed at this, homestay suites or something that has a kitchen, and I'm with them. I don't do that anymore because it was exhausting. But it was a period of a couple of years where I learned so much, and I understand what it means to be like a parent myself, and as a it changed me as a person first, and how I think of myself as a parent and also as a professional, so that's what when I do online classes, design courses, that's basically my message. I'm not, right. I can't tell people what to do.
Coming at it from an approach that works for the people, rather than having this one size fits all colonizer vibe that says, I know exactly what you need and you should do the things my way.
Right. I don't know if I answer your question or not. Did
Yeah.
I?
This is the way.
So this is the way. Well, we are talking a lot about kids. So I want to just focus. I mean, I get how it transcends, but I want to focus on what you do at Career Pathways.
Autism Career Pathways, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Autism Career Pathways. And what do I do now? Like if I am an adult, because it turns out children with autism become adults with autism.
Who knew?
It's a crazy thing. I'll tell you about it later, Matt. You'll be very fascinated. And so if you maybe didn't have that opportunity, maybe your parents didn't know you were autistic or you were raised under, a different kind of parenting regimen. What do we do now as adults if people are listening, and maybe we have a lot of listeners who struggle to keep a job? One listener wrote to us and she talked about how she hates her job. It's super toxic, but she has to keep it because otherwise she'll lose her kids. So what do you advise for those people?
Well, I think if you're autistic and you're looking for a job, or you want to know why you're fired again.
Yeah. By the way,
not knowing why.
I was fired 11 times. 11 times. Wow. And surprised every time. Right. Thought I was getting a promotion.
Yeah.
Was sure of it. Thought they were going to invite me to be the CEO and then I'd get fired. And
I've been correcting my boss every week for a month. I'm sure that they love my input. It helps them do their job better.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still confused. Even when you say it as a joke, I'm like, why would you not want that input? I want it as a boss.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, give me feedback.
Well, I think my advice would be to invest in yourself. Like find resources, whether it's autistic written books, if that's the way you can learn yourself through autistic written books, for example. YouTube channels, another one. I think if you say a lot of I don't knows, it's probably because you haven't been guided as an autistic person. So you got to find some ways, find someone, a platform that you feel like, okay, I get it slowly. That's the beauty of online stuff. You can always go back 10 times.
And do I remember correctly? You have a course, or do you do courses?
Yeah, so I'm a curriculum designer. So I try to do 2 big events every year. Matt and I did one earlier this year. I just finished another one for autistic job seekers and companies and businesses last week. Those are the 2 where I basically bring together autistic neurodivergent voices, and we work together to design an interesting event. We always use video clips, we use photos, we pre-record, so during the 1.5 to 2 hour session, like Matt and I could actually answer people's questions. So I think that it's very productive. And I want to do that. I wish I can do that every month. Obviously.
Honestly, it was the closest thing that I've ever had to throwing a party. So, getting a whole bunch of people together to listen to my special interests and being able to talk while listening at the same time. That was a neat. I like the approach. It's very cool.
Yeah. So, okay, what was the question? What's going back to, because this is an important question about like your career as an autistic person. I would say number 1 is figure out if you have all the means and if you have an ideal work condition, what does that look like? Because every day is a little bit different. I think if I invest in myself to learn that, to figure out answers that work for me, I have to write it down, record it so that I have my own template. So create your own template based on your own neurotype and how you decompress. What's an ideal work-life balance as an autistic person? Because every day is different, right? And fortunately, if you're a very artistic person, you can shift gear. Maybe you're trained as an accountant and you experience severe burnout. So now you're exploring, like, I'm very artistic, well, you can combine accounting with your artistic talent, obviously, and make a better world, like a better option where you can use your skills with your artistic talents or specific talents or interests, and you create it. So I think you have to define it yourself first, because you have to disconnect your own perception defined by other people all your life. So whether you invest in yourself working with a therapist who's affirming, and you can redefine yourself, basically, because to be able to sustain a job, you have to be your true self, and learn from people who are like you. And through social media, we have that, fortunately.
Yay.
That's why I'm trying to find an autistic fan art or manga artist to lead an online group for autistic teens, because I work with autistic teens who are so incredibly talented,
When autistic people find a special interest, they go deep and have a lot of knowledge, even if they don't have that formal education background to go with it. If you want to capture your spin in a book, check out Angela's work at differencepress.com, differencepress.com, and find out more about becoming an author and establishing your credibility with a book.
I think, because I saw your post, and I think I might have somebody for you, but it's one of those things of, I'm quite terrible at what I do, and I'm like, I see the walls behind you, and I'm in awe of them, but overcoming that initial hesitancy of,
right,
but people will see my work, oh my. Yeah.
Well, I'm very good at helping other autistic people, like getting them ready to share about their talent, So I love building homegrown businesses, because that's really,
I want to flip the script a little bit and ask you about business owners. So what are things that what are opportunities you think businesses might be missing in order to, first of all, is there a benefit to making your workplace friendlier for autistic people? And then what are the opportunities that they're missing and not doing that make it not a great choice?
Okay. That's like 3-part question.
Yeah, I don't know. Talk about that. Business owners. So, what should business owners do?
If you are a small business owner, right, you have to do everything yourself, like every day. And you have piles of paperwork and stuff, like at corners of every room in your business. Things that are not being done because you just don't have time. Those are actually great positions for neurodivergent people to come in and help you do it. So I know many small business, the mom and pop shop in the community, most of them don't have an Instagram account, or you know what I mean? They just don't know. They're too busy to learn it, and they, maybe have enough business. But imagine if you can reach out to more people by hiring a neurodivergent social media marketer for you. And as an autistic ADHD person, I do much better if I have projects. So if I'm a social media manager, I would do very well running projects for 5 different businesses, for example, where I come in and take pictures and maybe do a little interview, you know what I mean? So that's, you can build your business and reach more people and be up to date to how people do it if you hire autistic people, and so
and what do business owners do wrong that make it not a safe place or make them want to fire autistic people?
No, it's not that they do anything wrong. They just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah. So what are some of those things?
Oh, that's a good phrasing. Right. I like that.
Because they don't know what they don't know, because they're not touched by neurodivergence in any ways, right? They're not autistic owned. So they're all in cruise control. I think we get into that cruise control mode And we just don't see the opportunities yet unless someone points it out, And really, the way autism and neurodivergence is being represented today, it's all misinformation.
Yeah.
So when a business owner maybe is being asked, have you ever considered hiring or maybe doing like an internship, maybe with just one neurodivergent person? Then they're automatically thinking, oh, we don't have time to do that. This intern is going to take so much time, take away time for my business. That means less money, right? So that's the way neurodivergence is being represented.
Yeah.
It's not correct. And I work with so many neurodivergent people who can do things that I never would have dreamed to be able to do, right? But they're doing it in their own ways, right? And I think we need to change that somehow. Maybe winning a couple of lotteries. Talk about this. Man, what would we do if we win not just one lottery, a couple?
Yeah, seriously, because doing so much for community outreach, because that's the thing about, especially with a nonprofit, in order to help the people who need it the most, we need funding to be able to help the people who have no funding. And that's a tricky part, because there are a few autistic people who do have access to some good money that are willing to use it to supplement the people who do not have money. But unfortunately, we live in a world, because of the misunderstanding, because of the lack of awareness, and because they think that we're some sort of mythical creature like a chupacabra, they don't understand what we need and how to best support us. So there are a lot of underemployed autistic people who have been rejected time and time again. So they have this learned helplessness going on. So, but they need these services, and we need a way to supply the services, but we need multiple lotteries to fund that.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about preparing autistic people to be career ready, what's the point if opportunities are not there, serious opportunities? I wish businesses and companies actually come out and say, we want to hire autistic people to work here. Why can't they have that on the job posting?
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, we talked a long time ago at one of the trainings about how St. Cloud, Alex St. Cloud, I believe, the head of Wild Tangent, was talking about how great it is to hire autistic people for the purpose of exploiting us. Because he made this gigantic PowerPoint presentation where he said, yeah, they'll work long hours and you can push them as hard as you want and they won't fight back. And you can say that their girlfriends won't like it, because, again, he's very sexist in that regard. And, of course, he put this online for everyone to see, and then due to the backlash took it down. But if you go on the Wayback Archive, you can still find it, because the internet never forgets. And we might be able to link to that in the show notes, because I'll give it to you.
I think, what did we talk about that in the productivity episode? I think that's where it came up.
Yeah. And this is a thing, because there are some people who look to hire us to exploit us, but we need people who look to hire us to understand us, because we offer a remarkable benefit if we are treated properly. And we won't burn out if we are given the leave that we need, if we are given the energy that we need, if we are given the respect that we need.
Yeah. So continuing to answer that question about what to do if you're an autistic employee or looking for a job, I think invest in yourself and find other autistic people who work in the same field or similar field, so that you can learn to more about how to self-advocate within those particular field. And if you find a job that makes you feel horrible and treat you really, really bad, that's not the job you want anyways, right? So there are companies and small businesses who just have more compassion, so you can advocate. You actually don't have to say I'm autistic in order to advocate. So it's going back to investing in yourself and knowing who you are so you can advocate authentically, right? Because people will see your skills and talents and uniqueness. And if you find a trusted person at your job, whether it's a coworker or supervisor, build that connection first. I would say find a connection, find a confidant at work that you can slowly opening up, because then that person can become an ally for you.
Yeah.
Right. So don't change yourself because of the job. You have to be able to be yourself. I mean, that's autistic or not. So that's what our nonprofit want to do, hopefully, over time, is to build this platform where it's autistic, neurodivergent contributed. So that's our dream anyways, when we win the lottery.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Good stuff.
So I put the link to the presentation in there. So
awesome! I'll put that in the show
again,
notes.
that's one of those things, because I hear that project you're working on might involve a person who is me. So
right.
So
next year, right?
Yeah. So we're working on that, and we're going to find ways to teach autistic things. And with the advocacy stuff, one of the upcoming presentations that you'll be doing is again teaching people autistic-centered therapy with that guy who is me, and we'll be doing some neat stuff with that.
Yeah, I think we pick a theme of autistic problem solving.
Oh yeah,
across lifespan.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of neat stuff coming up. And you just did a presentation with Lyric Rivera from Neurodivergent Rebel. And that sounds really, really cool.
Yeah. We had 60 students from Oklahoma State University who came. Actually, they have to attend mandatorily. They're all there with their professor. It was great. I loved it.
I like that the professor put them all in a box like a clown car and dropped them off. And but at least they learned. That's the important thing.
And also they pay for the tickets. I really appreciate that. That's the other thing. Another input tip for autistic advocates, don't sell yourself short. So we have to change the way we are perceived, right?
Yes.
So a lot of companies, they just bring in an autistic person to do a presentation, and we don't even get paid to do it.
Yeah.
Don't sell yourself short, because, we are more than worth it. We are more than worth it.
Yeah.
I think that self-advocacy and that self-valuation is an important part of learning autistic culture and learning who we are, and just not being taken advantage of, because the corporate culture does take advantage of a lot of people. And if you have skills that are not replaceable, you need to know them. But right now we're reaching time, so I want to thank you for coming by, because you have been a fascinating guest. So I want to ask you a big question.
Okay.
What is your favorite part about being autistic?
I love my creative ideas. It's just nonstop. I don't think medication could help this, brain. I mean, in a way that I'm very creative. I've always been, but I think that's the best part of me as a neurodivergent person is I'm very good at giving people ideas and making my own ideas, and I'm also very good at connecting with people, other human beings, whether they're neurotypical or neurodivergent, so I can navigate that. That's my strength. And I think I can do all that because I was raised by a neurodivergent family, so they really taught me how to do the dance. That's a dance, right?
Yeah.
How Absolutely. To do the dance. And this was because I was raised totally.
Such a gift.
Yeah.
Matt and I do not share that experience, so we appreciate you passing that wisdom on to us. Not how either of us grew up.
But hopefully the future.
Yes.
Hopefully,
and that is what we're doing
true.
for our sons. So,
right.
Yes.
Drink to that, right? For Absolutely. A better future.
Here is for a better future for all autistic people. Maisie,
Right.
Thank you so much for being with us. Such a great conversation. Matt, thank you for bringing Maisie to our show. So have a great week, everyone. Please share your comments on our Substack page if you can. If you can't figure out how to comment on Substack, that's fine. Track us down on Twitter or on any of your favorite social medias. We would love to hear from you, and rate and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Autistic Culture Podcast.
If you like this show, you can help other people find it by taking a few minutes to rate and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
You can find out more about writing your book with me at differencepress.com. That's difference, DIFFERENCE, press, PRESS.com.
Or getting a psychological evaluation or consult with me at www.mattlowrylpp.com. That's MATT, Matt Lowry, LOWRY, LPP, as in licensed psychological practitioner.com.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and remember,
no one ever changed the world by being like everyone else.
Special thanks to our content manager, River Robbins, and Aaron Stoner, our producer, for making us look and sound good.